The first thing they told us about the Karathi was simple. Do not provoke them. The second thing was worse. You won't know if you already have. I didn't understand that at the time. I thought it was just another line from command meant to scare recruits into obedience. After all, humanity had only just begun stepping beyond its own solar system, and every alien species we'd encountered so far had been cautious at worst. The Karathi were different. They didn't negotiate. They didn't threaten. They didn't even communicate the way we understood it. They watched. And if they decided you were unworthy, you simply didn't come back. I was a mechanic, not a soldier. That's important. Because when people later try to turn what happened into some kind of legend, some heroic moment of bravery, they always got that part wrong. I wasn't brave. I was just there. My name is Elias Varn, third-class systems technician aboard the exploration vessel Astria. My job was to keep things running. Engines, life support, structural integrity, anything that buzzed, hummed, or broke at the worst possible time. Which meant, when we landed on Karath Prime and something inevitably went wrong, I was one of the first people sent out. Karath Prime didn't look like a world that belonged to warriors. It was quiet. Endless plains of pale, silvery grass stretched beneath a violet sky. The air shimmered faintly, like heat rising off metal, though the temperature was cool. In the distance, towering stone formations spiraled upward like frozen whirlpools. No cities. No visible technology. No movement. And yet, we all felt it. The weight of being watched. They're here, Captain Rhea said over comms. Stay sharp. I tightened my grip on my toolkit, trying to ignore the unease crawling up my spine. Around me, a small squad of security personnel fanned out, rifles ready. I was the only one without a weapon. Typical. We reached the damaged probe about half a kilometer from the ship. It had been deployed earlier to gather atmospheric data, but something had knocked it offline. My job was simple: diagnose, repair, and get out. Simple. Until the grass moved. Not with the wind. Against it. They emerged like shadows solidifying into form. Tall, easily 7 feet, maybe more. Their bodies were lean but powerful, covered in what looked like segmented armor that shimmered like polished obsidian. Their eyes, no, not eyes exactly, glowing slits of pale blue light, fixed on us with an intensity that made my chest tighten. Karathi. 5 of them. No weapons. No visible threat. But the security team raised their rifles anyway. Hold, Captain Rhea ordered. No sudden moves. The Karathi didn't react. They just watched. One of them stepped forward. Something about it felt different. Taller. Broader. The glow of its gaze burned brighter than the others. A leader. Or a warrior. Or both. It stopped a few meters away, head tilting slightly as if studying us. No, studying me. Hi. I muttered under my breath. Great. First contact with a species that could probably snap me in half, and I was talking like an idiot. The silence stretched. Then, without warning, one of the security officers shifted his stance, just a small movement, adjusting his grip. The warrior moved. Fast. Too fast. One moment it stood still. The next it was in front of the soldier, a blur of black and silver. The rifle was ripped from the man's hands before anyone could react. The squad tensed, fingers tightening on triggers. Stand down, Rhea snapped. The warrior didn't attack. Instead, it examined the weapon, turning it slightly, as if curious. Then, with a casual flick, it crushed the barrel. Like it was made of paper. The broken pieces fell to the ground. No aggression. No threat display. Just demonstration. A clear, terrifying message. This is how fragile you are. I should have stayed still. I should have kept my head down and let the trained professionals handle it. But that's the thing about instincts. They don't ask permission. They just act. The warrior turned slightly, its attention shifting away from the group, back toward me.
I don't know what it saw.
A weak link? A curiosity? Something insignificant? Whatever it was, it took a step closer. The others didn't move. Neither did the soldiers. It was just me. And it. My heart pounded. Don't move, I told myself.
Don't.
It reached out.
Not fast.
Not aggressive, but deliberate. A hand, clawed, armored, impossibly strong, extended toward me. And in that moment, something snapped inside my brain. Not fear. Not panic. Something older.
Simpler.
I moved. I didn't think. I didn't plan. I just reacted. The moment its hand came within reach, I stepped in, not back, grabbing its wrist and pivoting my body. Momentum. Balance. Leverage. It was something my older brother had drilled into me years ago, back when we used to spar for fun. Basic defensive techniques. Nothing special. Nothing that should have worked. But it did. The warrior's arm twisted just enough. Its center of gravity shifted. And, before anyone could comprehend what was happening, I flipped it. 7 feet of alien muscle and armor hit the ground with a heavy thud. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. I froze. The soldiers froze. Even the wind seemed to stop. I had exactly one thought. I'm dead. The warrior didn't move. For a second.
2.
Then slowly it rose. Not in anger. Not in retaliation. But with a controlled, deliberate motion. The other Karathi tensed slightly, their glowing gazes intensifying. I braced myself. This was it. This was the moment where they decided humanity wasn't worth the trouble. The warrior turned to face me again. I swallowed hard. Look, before I could finish, it did something no one expected. It stepped forward. Then it dropped to one knee. My brain refused to process what I was seeing. The towering alien warrior, the same one that had crushed a rifle like it was nothing, bowed its head slightly, one knee pressed into the silver grass. The others followed. All of them. 5 warriors, each capable of tearing through our entire squad, now kneeling in silence. No one spoke. No one moved. Captain Ria's voice crackled faintly over comms, but even she seemed at a loss for words. The lead warrior raised its head, those glowing slits fixing on me once more. Then, in a voice that sounded like metal resonating through stone, it spoke. Not through translation software. Not through devices.
Directly.
Into my mind. Teach me. The days that followed were surreal. The Karathi did not attack. They did not threaten. Instead, they invited. Or rather, they allowed me to stay.
Just me.
The rest of the crew remained aboard the Astrea, watching, waiting, trying to understand what had happened. I didn't understand it either. But every time I tried to leave, the warrior, the one they called Vareth, would appear. Not blocking my path. Just present. Waiting. Expectant. Teach me, it would say again. Always the same words. At first, I thought it was a misunderstanding. Maybe they saw what I did as some kind of advanced combat technique. Maybe they thought I was a warrior. If only they knew. I'm not a fighter, I told Vareth one evening as we stood near the stone spirals. What I did back there, that was basic. Anyone could learn it. Vareth tilted its head slightly. Then teach. I sighed. This was insane. But what choice did I have? So I started small. Balance. Footing. Center of gravity. I showed them how to stand, how to shift weight, how to use an opponent's force against them. Simple things. Basic things. Things that, against a species as strong as the Karathi, should have been meaningless. But they weren't, because the Karathi had never needed them. They relied on strength.
Speed.
Dominance. They had never learned restraint, never learned precision, never learned control. And they were fascinated. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. I became something I never expected, a teacher, not just of movement but of thought, of understanding. I showed them that strength wasn't just about overpowering an opponent, it was about knowing when not to. That victory didn't always mean destruction. That sometimes the greatest power was in holding back. Vareth learned quickly, faster than I could have imagined. Each time we sparred, it adapted, refined, improved, until one day, it stopped. Mid-movement, its glowing gaze locked onto mine. And for the first time, I saw something new in it. Not curiosity, not intensity, something deeper. Respect. You are not weak, Vareth said. I let out a small laugh. Trust me, compared to you, I really am. It shook its head. Strength is not form, not force. It paused, searching for the right words. Strength is choice. I blinked. That was new. You've been thinking, I said. I have been learning. I smiled slightly.
Yeah.
You have. There was a long silence. Then Vareth did something unexpected. It knelt again. Not like before. Not as a student, but as something else. Something equal. The Karathi were wrong, it said. We believed strength was dominance. That those who could not resist us were beneath us. Its gaze softened, if that was even possible. You resisted. I scratched the back of my neck. I panicked. You acted, Vareth corrected. Without fear. Without hesitation. You showed us another way. I didn't know what to say to that. So I said the only thing that felt right. We showed each other. When the Astrea finally prepared to leave, I stood at the edge of the landing zone, looking out over the silver plains. Vareth stood beside me. You will return? It asked. I hesitated, then nodded.
Yeah.
I think I will. It inclined its head slightly, a gesture I had come to understand as approval, as respect, as friendship. You have changed us, it said. I shook my head. No, I replied. We changed each other. The ship's engines roared to life behind me. I took one last look at Kareth Prime, at the warriors who no longer stood as silent watchers, but as something more. Then I turned, heading back toward the ship. I was still just a mechanic, still just a Elias Barn. But somehow, I had taught a species of unstoppable warriors how to kneel. And in doing so, they had taught me what it truly meant to stand,